2015 has started on a rather very sad note, as over 165 damaging fires have already been recorded. So far, just a month into the new year, Central Medical Stores in Tema was last week consumed by fire. And the fire started on the year, I said, started on a rather sad note, as the Central Market Medical Stores got consumed by fire in the year. Now, beyond the issue of the fire are questions of exactly what happened. The cost of the fire is estimated to be over 230,000. I beg your pardon, 230 million Ghana cedis. Beyond the fire are also questions of the expired volumes of expired drugs, which were all in the facility as it caught fire. Tonight we'll be exploring the issues surrounding that fire and asking key questions of what is happening as we get down to business to establish the cause of these fires, 165 or more across the country. My name is Stephen Anti, and this is today's big story. Well, welcome back. Already we are just in the middle of the first month of the year, and over 165 fires have already been recorded across the country. There are concerns over what exactly is causing these fires. Last year, before the end of the year, Ghana recorded quite a number of fires which we're told were investigated. Reports of that investigations were not made public. We do not know what lessons we have learned from the fires of last year, and already 165 going into the new year. It's something that we should be worried about. Now, beyond these fires are questions of how much was lost in the fire at the Central Medical Stores in Tema. The Minister of Health has already indicated that a number of officials who play key roles at the facility will be interdicted pending investigations into the cause of the fire. We're expecting that a report which was commissioned will be made public today. But we'll get onto the telephone line to speak about the safety issues. But I have in the studio our reporter, Kwabena Chenchehine-Boate. You have been following this fire. Tell me the latest on the fire at the Central Medical Stores. Well,
at the Central Medical Store now, this morning when I went there, the fire had been put out completely. And there was an excavator and quite a number of trucks there. I mean, they were cutting the debris away. So basically, that's that for now, except for the fact that workers there do not have a place to work. So they just come and just sit about, do virtually nothing, and at the end of the day, they just move out.
Now, one of the key striking things that came out of your reportage last week was the volume of expired drugs that were still in the facility. Did that hit you as a surprise, as a journalist who was covering an inferno, and we're told that 230 million Ghana cedis is lost, and then there were this volume of medications or medical supplies which had expired? Your quick reaction when you saw that?
I was really shocked. In fact, it was a tip-off I got that actually most of the things that are actually being burnt are expired products. So I asked myself, really? And the gentleman said yes, he actually worked there. So he said yes, that's the case, most of the things. So if he works there and he was telling me most of the things there, I mean, I was a bit concerned that if you are saying such a huge amount of money is involved in there, and a chunk of that is into expired
that's what we
products,
don't know. We don't know the cost of those expired drugs in the first place. I mean, if they are expired, then they should amount to zero, really.
Because I was really surprised. So I went in there to actually verify whether or not indeed that was the case, and I went there and I was actually they showed me a particular place where I could see most of the things, but apparently they were all over the place, not even just that section. From tablets to oral medications, to syringes, to condoms, to nets, virtually everything.
And you told me that some of the things had expired Up to about 7 years?
Yes, I mean, I saw some, how do we call that? Some products were expired as far back as 2008.
Wow.
Yes, some 2007, some 2008, some 2012, 2013, 2014. So many of them.
Well, there's a lot more we have to discuss about that. I'll return to you, Chanchahine, but let me get onto the telephone lines and speak to Nanaya Akoda, who is the Executive Director of the Bureau of Public Safety. Is joining us. Well, I will be getting him on the telephone lines, but there are questions of safety which we're exploring today. The cause of these fires, what should we be doing as a country to ensure, one, that these fires do not start in the first place? When they do start, what is the capacity of the Ghana National Fire Service to deal with these fires, and what are some of the challenges that they face in executing their work of fighting fires across the country? We'll be getting onto the telephone lines also and to speak to the public relations officer of the Ghana National Fire Service, Ellis Oko, who has agreed to speak to us. We'll be speaking to him very shortly. But let's return to the specific fire of the medical stores. I am concerned that we're yet to get official confirmation from the Ministry of Health exactly how much was lost in terms of the expired drugs and all. But what did you pick up in your... No, let me wait and get onto the telephone lines. I'm told that Ellis Oko, who is the Public Relations Officer of the Ghana National Fire Service, is joining us. Good evening, sir. Thanks for your time. I'll be grateful if you could speak a bit louder. I think that we're getting that same problem that you told me earlier of. We're not hearing you well. But if you can hear me, I know that the Ghana National Fire Service has been equipped recently. I mean, as latest as the time Professor Evans Mills was in power, you received a lot of equipment to help you fight fires and etc. So there are many people who are expecting that the Ghana National Fire Service should not have the challenges that it had in the past. Would you tell me what really makes it difficult when in executing your job? I'm not insinuating that you're not doing well, no, but I am asking you to just tell me, in executing your job, what are some of the major challenges you face which you would like to share with us?
Yes, the Ghana National Fire Service is a professional, and we execute a professional the public. I don't know if saying that we are not able to do our work, but then government has equipped us as we agree, and in the course of our work, certain challenges face. Number one issue like access to fire staff. Hello.
Yeah, I'm listening to you, Ellis Oko. Nanaya Akoda, I'm told that Nanaya Akoda from the Bureau of Public Safety is also on the line. Nanaya, I'll gladly have you hold briefly so I interrogate this issue with Ellis, and then we'll come to you, sir. So, Ellis, you were saying that in executing your work, you do face certain challenges, including access to the location of the fire.
You understand me?
Yes.
And we need certain safety food and also assistance to our fire safety management is very important. And for that matter, for instance, the issue of assets, we expect AFA to support us in clearing unauthorized structures so that once we go to the fire safety market and we find a better for the country, it's not the responsibility of the fire safety to do that better.
Right, Alice, your line is not very good. We will drop you and then we will call you on your other line so that we will see whether we can get a very clear line and continue with this conversation. Thanks very much, Alice. Now I'm joined on the line by Nanaya Akoda. Nanaya, good evening and thanks for your time. Good evening, Nanaya, and thanks for joining us on today's big story.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Now, I know that just like many Ghanaians, you would be extremely concerned with the numbers of fire we have recorded in this country as far back as 2009. Up to today, even in just a month, we've recorded over 165. As somebody from the Bureau of Public Safety, this should come to you as alarming. What's your quick reaction to this?
Well, indeed, it is indeed alarming. However, if you just look at the trend of fires, in the beginning of every year, it is always around this figure.
I see.
Something around this figure. Nonetheless, one would expect that having gone through these cycles over time, we as a nation would have appreciated the exigencies of the time and act more responsibly and proactively. The truth, Stephen, about these fires is that as a nation since 2009, having taken the issue of fires as high as to the office of the president,
Yes.
having crossed even geographical borders to bring in experts from the United States of America. To date, as a nation, we do not know and we cannot place a finger on something that has been sanctioned officially as the probable cause. We cannot access any document that suggests recommendations that as a nation we can follow in order to stem this tide. And that, to the Bureau of Public Safety, is worrying.
It's
and
very
shameful.
worrying. Now, when we look at the trend, you have said that at the beginning of the year, these numbers are not exactly surprising. It does happen, but must we accept it? Must we accept that every year, within the first quarter, we should get over 165 properties, fires, damage to this extent? I mean, should we continue to accept it and not put in place mechanisms and systems to ensure that this does not happen?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We should not, as a nation, accept this trend because it is not civil to have a nation go through these cycles every year. And considering also the fact of the cost that is borne by the state, the social cost, the economic cost, and all that, I think that we cannot accept this, which is why the Bureau of Public Safety have since 2009 been calling for these reports to be made public so that we can study and also advise civil society, advise managers of public facilities on what to do. The fact that these reports are not available in the public domain is taking a chunk part of our contribution to stemming this tide.
Right.
Why? Because if you look at safety in general, public safety, we have maintained that it is a shared responsibility. Safety is not a cake that you can bake and then serve to people.
Yeah.
Safety is like basically preparing fufu. Somebody must pound and somebody must turn. And the two persons must play their part in order to get the food cooked. But we as a nation have continuously attempted to preserve safety as a cake, or present it as cake to the public.
Now, I'll have you hold. I will be exploring specific solutions that we should, as a country, be adopting in order to address this. But I have the Public Relations Officer of the National Fire Service, Ellis Oko, who is on the telephone. Ellis, your line was disappointing us a little, but we do hope that we can get a clearer line now. Now, you were saying that earlier that you do face challenges, and you were enumerating the challenges that you face in the execution of your job. But I want to find out from you whether, in your estimation, you feel that the overall attitude towards fire prevention, I mean, as citizens, is lacking on our part, or is simply because we don't care anymore about fires?
Yes, my brother, I agree with you perfectly. Our attitude towards fire safety is nothing to write home about. Hello?
Yes, I'm listening. I thought you were making a statement. Yeah.
Our attitude towards fire safety is nothing to write home about.
And sure.
There's a lot of carelessness. There's a lot of lawlessness in terms of fire safety measures. You move to certain places, you educate them, you expect that they should imbibe those basic things and apply it in their daily lives, but then you don't see that. So it's really a problem.
And you mentioned that you educate people. Does it mean that the National Fire Service has been doing some form of education?
A lot of them, my brother, a lot of them.
And you don't get any results?
We do get results. For instance, if you go to Kaneshi Market, for over the years now, you hardly hear that there's a fire outbreak at Kaneshi Market because they have implemented all the fire safety measures that we've recommended for them. And for that matter, you go to Kaneshi Market, the place is so peaceful. You don't have fire outbreak at Kaneshi Market.
Let's talk about the trends of the fires you have been fighting. We will look at the Tema Central Medical Stores, for example. You went in there, you faced certain challenges, but you still managed to bring the fire under control. Are you able to tell me specifically, as you went in to the situation at Tema, what were your initial suspicion of what started the fire?
Yeah, when we got there, our major challenge was access to water. Even though our fire tenders carried some water to the fire ground, the fire was so intense, within a short while, the water had finished. But then we thought we were going to have a hydrant within the premises to use to do the firefight. But, you know, the hydrants over there failed us. We didn't have access to water. We had to travel longer distances to access water to do the effective firefight.
I see. So is this challenge that you just spoke to me about, is it the same as all the fires you've been fighting? For example, there being the Dome fire, there being recently a Shell filling station in Kumasi which caught fire. There's recently also another a structure opposite the Central Market. I mean, fires everywhere. So in all of these fires, are these the unique challenges you face? Access to water?
Majority of the fires, my brother, you agree with me that 90% of firefighting, we use water. So majority of these fires, we get to the city. We expect that, like such places that you have mentioned, the filling stations and the like, they will have hydrants in their premises. So when we go there, we can rely on it. Notwithstanding, we have some water tankers that do serve as backups for us during firefight. So I wouldn't say that it's all the fires that we do have challenges such as water.
Right. So, Ellis, let me ask you my last question before I let you go. So, would you agree with people who say that perhaps it's the responsiveness of the National Fire Service, the delay in responding to emergency situation that causes majority of the damage? Because if you get there on time, you can quench the fire in good time and save everybody.
My brother, I disagree with that school of thought. We have cases. I want to reveal to you that about 40% of these fire outbreaks that you spoke about earlier on, 40%, before we get to the scene, it is out of the people had already put off the fire.
Yeah.
So it means that people are becoming even responsive in, attending to fires or knowing what to do during fire outbreak. So it is. I would disagree with that school of thought. And that we are not being responsible.
Okay, and you also expected to present a report on this fire at Tema Medical Stores to the Ministry of Health. Have you done that?
Not as I know.
Okay, right. Thank you very much, Ellis, for your time on today's Big Story. I still have Nanao Koda on the line. But Nanao, briefly, I mean, we will never finish talking about the safety issues that need to be in place to ensure that, one, there are no fires. Two, when the fires come, we can quench them in good time so that we save public property and lives as well. Do you think that we're doing enough in terms of the right systems and the right approaches as a country?
Well, Stephen, just a little bit of education since you're a very good friend. I've heard the media most of the time use the term quench fire. I think the right terminology is extinguish fire. And I know that you know, but you're falling prey to the street slang. So extinguish fire. Well, basically, if you ask about the whether as a country we are approaching these fires in the right manner, my answer will be no. and a big no for that matter. Look, since 2009, I tried to use 2009 because I'm just taking my point of reference from the Foreign Affairs Ministry building that got burnt. We have not seen any major significant intervention with regard to fire safety in this country.
But what interventions will these be?
Well, something visible for people to be aware. When you travel outside, you get to public institutions, you get to state buildings, you get to private properties, and clearly you see fire lanes. You see elevated hydrants. Hydrants.
That's
all
right.
These things are in place. They've been clearly marked, painted, and they are elevated above the ground. People are staying clear of them. When you go to these new malls and things, you should be able to see clearly demarcated fire lanes and places that people could not park or cannot park, places that there are elevated hydrants that you could see, and education notices put around regarding fire and emergency and all. But we have not, we are yet to see any significant visible action taken by the state for people to comply. And we have said that until that is done, we as a nation will continue, unfortunately, to wallow in this fire.
Right, Nana Akoda, we're grateful for your time on today's Big Story, and thanks for the fire education. This is today's Big Story. So, Shajani, the ability of the fire service to extinguish these fires have always come to the fore in discussions of this nature. When you were there and the fire service came to tackle the fire, you saw the challenges they went through. Did you see them as effectively ready to tackle the fire they came to extinguish?
Well, I think they underestimated the fire. They didn't think it would be such a big fire. So initially, I'm told about 2 tenders came in, then 1 joined. But after a while, when they realized it was really getting out of hand, then they had to call for backup. While I was there, it got to a point for about an hour or 2, they didn't have water. They didn't have water, so it became a problem. So assuming the fire had not probably engulfed a particular area, maybe it was just in this, just this section. Had there been enough water at the time, it could have probably been extinguished. I mean, it wouldn't have spread to other parts. It spread to all the other warehouses, but for 2. Just 2 warehouses were spared. I mean, it spread across the entire place. The whole place was down. But just a quick one, maybe just to add to what Nana Akwada was saying earlier. You know, the chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health was there, Joseph Ilicha. He was there, and he raised a concern that he thinks it's high time we actually took a second look at the facilities that store some of these things. You know, these things have been there for a while. They've been there for a while. So, you know, the wiring and all these things,
they're old.
They're very old. So the slightest thing can just create a problem. So that's one thing he said, and I think moving forward is something maybe we all need to look at. And that aside, I must say the fire service did their best.
Under the circumstances.
Yes, indeed.
Judge, let's quickly make a move to the people who we were told have been interdicted. We're yet to raise anybody from the Ministry of Health or the Minister himself to say anything to us. You know how these things work. Nobody wants to talk in a sensitive issue like that. Now, some names were dropped. I mean, I have the names here, but I'm skeptical to just put it out because I'm waiting. We're all waiting for the report from the ministry. The report didn't come up, but you heard that some people were interdicted, and the Minister of Health had some suspicions. And what did you pick about these suspicions and the events leading to those who were interdicted?
Well, quite a number of things. Now, first and foremost, today when I went there, we've been speaking to some people all this while, and today when I went there, I followed up on a few things, and we gathered that apparently there seems to be much more going on there than just distributing drugs to the various,
some form of a cartel.
That's the information we picked. I mean, and these are credible sources we've spoken to, and there seems to be a cartel. So this is the situation. So when the drugs come in, the drugs are there and people need to come for them. You know, obviously you need to place a request. So when the requests come and the people are requesting, say, 200 or 300, then the figure ends up bloating to, say, 1,000 or 2,000.
That's corruption.
That's
So what does it appear that the minister of health had wind of this cartel and was going to take an action?
The information I picked up suggests that the BNI is aware of this information. I'm telling you now, the BNI is aware of it. You know, they are involved in the investigations now currently, so they have been liaising with the Ministry of Health and other agencies on this particular matter. So obviously, the minister should have a hint as to what is actually going on, and quite a number of names are mentioned in there. This is just a tip of the iceberg.
This is just a tip of the iceberg.
A number of names.
So what? The thing is like this. This cartel was responsible for perhaps inflating requests that come to the stores and adding their own cuts to it. So they make as much as maybe 2 million Ghana cedis off the records of the Ministry of Health. And then they pocket that.
A particular scenario that was cited was one that happened on the 4th of December, 2014, just last month, 4th December. Now, they were supposed to send some items. You know, when the National Malaria Control Program, they usually come for some of these drugs, these anti-malaria drugs, and we were told they had just received a consignment from a benevolent organization. So usually when they do come, they do not pay for them. And they are not giving so much. They are giving about, say, 200 or 300. And I mean, mind you, these things are subsidized anyway. But apparently, there was no request. Whether there was a request or not, later on, we were told there was no request. But there was a request, according to them, there was a request for 4,000. And we are told there's a particular lady who always comes to make the pickups, whether it's for National Malaria Control Program, whether it's for the 37 Military Hospital or any other hospital. The particular lady comes to make the pickup. And once she leaves, no one knows her whereabouts. And I'm told if you feel, I mean, you're a store supervisor and you dare open your mouth to question, I mean, where are these things going? Then you are quickly reshuffled or you're moved elsewhere.
You're reshuffled or moved.
Indeed. So you're told there's something that's been going on for some time. But it has really aggravated now.
So these were the bases for which the minister suspected there could be arson.
Sure.
And I'm told that there was supposed to be a few days before there were supposed to be some stock taking at the site. It didn't happen.
Well, at the end of the year, obviously, they are supposed to take inventory and take stock. We are told they were supposed to have taken stock within that week. That's last week. They started on Monday, was supposed to run through the week, started on Monday, and on Tuesday, the place caught fire. Oh. So, well, it wouldn't be for us to judge.
It wouldn't be for us to judge, of course. And we've been trying to raise the relevant people from the Ministry of Health to speak to us on this, but nobody is answering. Nobody wants to say anything. So, yeah, you trust that we will continue exploring and asking the key questions that we need to ask in order to put everybody's mind at rest. My name is Stephen Anti, and thanks for staying with us on today's big story. We'll be right back with Interactive. Do stay.